The second part of this section deals with combining functions, and this might be the easiest thing that we will do all semester. Just don't overthink it. So if you have an f plus g, that means add the two functions. If you have an f minus g, that means subtract the two functions, and so forth. That's how they look. So here are your rules. So in the first problem, I give you f of x and g of x, and I ask you to do these operations. Now, subtraction is really tricky, just with signs, so be careful with that part. So what this tells me to do is I take function f minus function g. Okay, so function f is x minus 5, and function g is x squared minus 1. So when I clean this up, I'm going to get an x minus 5. I'll distribute this negative. So that gives me a negative x squared plus 1. That's where we usually miss it, so be really careful with that sign. So cleaning this up, we have a negative x squared I'll bring down, a positive x, and negative 5 plus 1 is a negative 4. And that is your answer. Now, the notation sometimes confuses students. So I wanted to point that out for just a second. This x, let me make it yellow. This x right here is just part of its name. Just like f of x right here is part of its name and g of x right here is part of its name. It just tells you it's a function of x. So that x on the back, don't worry with that. Just do f minus g and work it from there. Okay, here's our second one. It says you take function f. So function f is x minus 5 times function g. Okay, so I called that FOIL. All we'll do is FOIL that out. So we get x cubed minus x minus 5x squared plus 5. And that's what we would get from that one. Okay, looking at the next one, it tells you to take function f and put it over function g. That's it. That's f divided by g. Okay, so then you get your last one, and your last one is a little tricky. Now there's multiple ways to work it, but I think this way's a little easier. First of all, I want you to notice the difference between the last one and the other ones. It has a 2 right here. Now 2 here does not mean multiply by 2. So what this 2 here means is plug in. So when you have something behind a function, it means plug that number into the function. So what we would do with this one is start just like we did the other ones. We're going to take function f, and we're going to take function g, and we're going to add them up. Okay, so when I add them up, I get x minus 5 plus x squared minus 1. So that gives me x squared plus x minus 6. Okay, so that's what the f plus g function looks like. But once we get there, we're going to plug in 2. Okay, so when we plug in 2, we would get 2 squared plus 2 minus 6. 2 squared is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 minus 6 would give us 0. So the overall answer to this one is 0. Now the two of these that are the trickiest are the plugging in and the subtracting. So let's go over a couple of those. Okay, so for this particular problem, I'm asking you f minus g. F minus g. Okay, so the f function is x squared minus 3, and the g function is 4x plus 1. Okay, so let's clean it up. X squared minus 3. I'm going to distribute here, and I get minus 4x minus 1. So cleaning this up, it would give me x squared minus 4x minus 4. And that would be your answer. Remember, put it in parentheses and then distribute. Okay, your second one, you're going to do this operation. So we're going to multiply f and g. And after we multiply f and g, we're going to plug in 4. Okay, so f looks like this. G looks like this. So we're going to FOIL that out. Okay, so I look at that product and I don't see anything that simplifies, so that's a good answer for that step. But remember, this one was different because it had a number in the back. So if it has a number in the back, you're going to plug that in. So this would be 4 times 4 cubed plus 4 squared minus 12 times 4 minus 3. 4 cubed is 64. So we get 256 plus 16 minus 48 minus 3. So I don't have a calculator today. So we get 272 minus 51. And I hope we get an answer of 221. I will double check that. Okay, 221 is correct, so that one looks great. So we've added, we've subtracted, we've multiplied, we've divided, we've plugged in. There's one type left, okay, and that's called the composition. The composition is written with an open circle. So you see FOG almost. That is your symbol for composition. Make sure you don't multiply. Multiply would certainly be one of your multiple choice tricks. Don't fall for that. So you see there the symbol for composition is that open circle, and that is not the symbol for multiply. Okay, so the composition isn't too hard. You just have to remember a few steps. Here's the easiest way to do it. So I give you two functions up here and I ask you to find f of g. This one starts with f right here in the blue, so we're going to start with our f function. Our f function is 5x plus 6. Okay, so that's where we start. Take the x out. 5x plus 6. What the composition tells us to do is take our second function and plug into that missing piece. So my g function is going to go right there. So I would have 5 times g plus 6. Now simplifying this, that would be 5x squared minus 5 plus 6. And so my answer would be 5x squared plus 1. Now I can also ask you the function in reverse. So let's pick two different colors. We'll go with red and gray. Okay, so my first function right here is g. So the g function up there is x squared minus 1. What the composition tells you to do is put the second function in the place that's missing. So f would go right here. So f is actually 5x plus 6. Now when we work this one out, we have to do a little bit of algebra to it. So that means we want to write it twice and FOIL it. So we get 25x squared plus 30x plus 30x plus 36 minus that 1. So that gives us 25x squared plus 60x plus 35. And that's our answer for that one. That's how the composition would work.